Esta
minutes.
conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
You probably heard this conference is registered, so the registrations just started. Just to present few words, to present myself, my name is Cristina Colonna Distria. I'm very thrilled to welcome you all in the framework of this first capacity building webinar organized by P2 Greenest project, which is focusing on international public procurement. Before starting this session, I would like to give you some logistic advices in order to be sure that the webinar is taking place as planned. So some, let's say, logistic rules. In terms of time, please take note that this webinar will last for 1.5 hours. It is recorded, as I already said, and the presentation and the replay will be shared on our project website, P2 Greenest website, later on. So if you have some other colleagues who who were not able to join this session today, they would be able to watch it after. I would suggest you to keep your microphones off during the presentation, with the exception, of course, in the question and answer session, if we need some precisions from you. But for the questions, we would like to ask you and encourage you all to write your questions in the chat. And at the end of each section of the presentation and training, we will try to pick up the questions you may have and ask our consultant, our speaker today, to answer to them. And if we have too many questions, because we are expecting, as I said, around 80% today, I will try to gather them all and give you later on the feedback to any one of them. So about the agenda today, I will, if you do not mind, I will take 5-7 minutes to present you P2 Greenest project and the upcoming activities which are dedicated to SMEs and business support organizations. But the main point of the webinar will be managed by Karin Brook, who is an internationalization expert and who will teach you and give you some useful insights about international public procurement in the third countries, about the main mechanism in order to face the difficulties and the impediments an SME may face when it's bidding abroad. And she will probably give you some advice about your strategy, how to better organize yourself if you are a beginner in order to get successful bidding in international markets. So about our projects before, who we are. We are a partnership of 4 partners. 3 of us are situated in the European Union. I'm representing AI Eco-Entreprise, which is a French cluster situated in the south of France covering circular economy topics. We have a colleague from Romania, which is Green Energy Cluster, and which is working on biomass innovative solutions. We have FADE, which is a federation from Asturian region from Spain, working with a huge number of companies from Asturian regions. And by the way, I take advantage to thank you, Celia Sanchez, who helped us organize this first webinar. And we have a partner outside the European Union, which is the Chamber of Commerce of Moldova. They are a very relevant partner because our project is targeting Eastern Partnership countries, Moldova, Ukraine, and last but not least, Serbia. So these partners is helping us as a key point to enhance collaboration with local stakeholders and local public institutions. So as you could understand, our targeted markets are Moldova, Serbia, and Ukraine. We slowed down a little bit the activities with Ukraine for the actual context, but we won't hesitate to take advantage of any opportunity business opportunities in link with the environment if they are possible. And to come to the main objective of the project, as you could understand, our main objective is to help European companies to bid internationally, especially in the targeted markets, which is Moldova, Serbia, and Ukraine. Which are our main, let's say, mechanism and activities which will be put in place to help SMEs and business support organizations and clusters to do so. We are now at the end of an implementation phase, let's say so. We did a market screening of the targeted countries, but also a SWOT analysis, trying to understand which are the main impediments, challenges, difficulties SMEs may face to bid abroad, but also the forces of the SMEs. And taking into account this, we built up an internationalization strategy, which is actually focused on several points. One of them is capacity building, and the webinars which are starting today actually are aiming to help SMEs to understand how to bid internationally, and especially in these countries, we will be able to teach you later in the upcoming webinars. We will also put in place networking events. They will happen physically in the targeted countries, but also online. So in the upcoming months, we will organize B2Match activities with local stakeholders, with public procurers, in order to help you meet relevant contact and be able to bid in these markets. We know that there will be challenges for you in order to go through this process. So we will put in place a help desk managed by local experts in order to answer you to any questions, legal, language, institutional questions you may have when you bid internationally. And we will organize two international trade missions, one in Moldova and one in Serbia, bringing with us companies. So if you are a company and you wish to discover more about these countries, please stay in touch with us, and we will be able to go through this process together. And last but not least, we will put in place, and it's already operational on the project website, a monitoring tool, a e-watch tool, aiming to identify relevant tenders in the targeted markets. You can subscribe in 3 very simple, easy steps. And once you subscribe into the tool, you will receive alerts once we publish into it public procurement opportunities managed by local public authorities in the project main sectors. And if Karin may move to the next slide. Speaking about sectors, we are targeting, of course, circular economy topic as an overall approach, but we are focusing on water, energy, and waste sectors, because we know that Serbia, Moldova, and Ukraine face big challenges into these sectors. And for doing the transition, the circular economy transition, they need support and innovation from European countries. I won't go into details because the next webinars we are going to arrange will be more focused on these topics and these special markets. As you understood, this webinar today is presenting the international public procurement as an introduction for beginners, because thanks to our SWOT analysis, we understood that a lot of European companies are beginners in international public procurement. That is why we decided to start with this first introduction with general concepts. And if Karin may move to the next slide. Yes, just to present you the 6 webinars. The first one is starting today. The second one will be we'll go deeper into details about multilateral tenders, and especially the tenders managed by national regional authorities in the targeted countries. The particularities and the local agencies are dealing with them. And then you will have 2 different kind of webinars. two of them based on Serbia and the other two on Moldova, the same methodology. The first one is will present you the legal framework, the main institutions and tendering processes in both countries. And then you will have a very operational webinar aiming to underline existing opportunities in the targeted sectors, some success stories with companies, European companies, which already went into the process there in order to inspire us or to underline the difficulties and the solutions they could put in place. And the same kind of webinar will be done from Serbia and for Moldova. That's all about the 6 webinars. They will be organized between now and June, so please let's stay in touch. And if you're interested by the others, we will inform you as soon as we have the next date fixed. If you can go to the next slide, Karin, is just to present you briefly the UWatch system, but I was already telling you that the UWatch system is available on P2Greenest project website, that it has a page specially dedicated to tenders with the alert system I just was talking about. But then you have another page, which is the resources page. On this page, you will have fact sheets, legal information, the market screening we just achieved, the SWOT analysis. So we invite you, if you are interested, to find more details about our first achievements and the upcoming ones, to consult the tenders and resources website pages. Please, if you can go, Karin, to the next slide. Here is just the link to access to the UWatch tool. And by the way, I take advantage to tell you that the presentation will be shared with all of you, and it will be also available on the website with a recording of this webinar. So you have the link here. You have down you can see the tenders page and the resources page. And if Karin may go to the next slide, here is the process, the easy process to subscribe into the tool. You have just to click on the subscribe button, to include your email address, to send us, and we'll receive your information and keep you updated about the next opportunities. Karin, if you can move to the next slide. It's my let's say conclusion. Here you have all our different communication tools to keep in touch. We have a LinkedIn page where we publish any interesting content about the project itself and our topics, legislation and actuality about our targeting market. So please subscribe to our page. We have also for clusters and business support organizations a profile on European Cluster Collaboration Platform, and we have our project website available for all of you. That's all for me, and now I would like to give the floor to Karin Brook. Welcome her, and thank you for accepting to make this first training for us. We are really thrilled to have you here and very excited to learn more as beginners about the international public procurement concept in third countries. The floor is yours, Karin.
Thank you very much, Christina. Thank you very much, everybody, to be here in this webinar. And a special thank you to P2Greenest and especially to FADE for the invitation to speak today. The objective of my session is to show you that international and multilateral tender are a good and realistic opportunity for European SME. But what is an international tender? A tender is a public procurement, the procedure that any administration, any contracting authority has to follow to purchase its products, services, and works. An international tender is a tender launched by an administration of another country, and a multilateral tender is a tender launched and or financed by a multilateral organization, European Union, World Bank, United Nations, only to give you the name of the most famous one. Depending on the origin of the funds, the tendering procedures are different. We have different types of tenders. Basically, we have 3 types: supply of goods and equipment of all kinds, civil work, and services. Really, all kinds of equipment. It can be food, it can be fire extinguisher, vehicles, rat poison, really an enormous range of varieties and possibilities. Civil work, construction of all kinds, hospitals, school, administration buildings, a dam, an airport, a jail. Sometimes the contract also involves the supplies of a variety of goods and equipment with inherent services, what we call key in hand contracts. In services too, we have consultancy services, technical assistance, studies, training, and we have the possibility to help contracting authorities themselves to prepare the tender which will be launched, and participating in tender preparation services of all these public bodies. Can my company participate? It's really the first question that we have to answer to be able to say that it is a good opportunity. First of all, before answering this question, I would like to speak to you and to underline only 30 seconds the main strength of European SME. First of all, you must remember that European legislation represents the highest standard of environmental friendliness in the world. We are really in European Union, the part of the world with the highest specification in all the environmental aspect of the economy. We have a lot of experience in quality processes, and this gives a good guarantee to all these contracting authority which are launching a lot of tenders around the world, and particularly in East Europe. European SME have developed too an important network of international technology cooperation agreement with university, with technological center. You know that European Union is very active too in financing European projects in which there is a lot of cooperation between SME across Europe, but too with university, with investigation center, and with a lot of different entities and bodies which are specialized in very technical material, which can be very useful when you are tendering. And SME, European SME are very keen and very good too in training, in capacity building, in technology transfer, which are very important aspects, highly valued by foreign bidding administrations. What have we to do to apply for a tender? We have to prepare some administrative documentation, which are nearly always requested. We will enter in more detail in this part of this information a little bit later today. The second one, we have to have the required financial solvency. Here we have a general rule. This general rule is that the minimum accepted turnover to be authorized to participate is that the amount of the tender is the minimum turnover required by the SME wanted to tender. What does it mean? If, for example, there is a tender of 1 million euro, to be able to participate alone in this tender, you must prove that you have obtained at least a turnover of the same quantity of 1 million euro. And we will see that if we have not this minimum turnover, there is a wonderful possibility to, which is to create a consortium with other SME, with other entities. We will speak more detailedly on this point a little bit later. The size of the company, as I told you, is determined on a turnover basis, but on the basis of the number of people working in the company. And you will read in the tender conditions a lot of time that the contracting authority is asking that, for example, 5 people inside the company is working specifically on waste or on the different environmental subjects which are tendered in the procedure that you are interested in. You have to prove to the experience which is indicated in the same tender condition. But you know, there are common points in all tendering procedures, and this makes things much easier. First, you must remember that progressively there is a general digitalization of all tender processes. What does it mean? It means that all the opportunities and rules governing the tenders are published on the website of the bidding organization or on national platform. But it is very easy to access the opportunities and the rules. Second, in the development aid banks, World Bank and regional ones, what we call multilateral proceeding, the procedure used in this kind of multilateral agencies, development aid bank, are based on the national procedure in force in the different beneficiary countries. What does it mean? It means that we will have the general procedure, for example, of Moldavia, of Serbia, but with a lot of different top and different conditions put by the Development Aid Bank, which will make the procedure very easy to follow and without any kind of discrimination, with the real equality between the different tenderers and so on. At the contrary, if we are tendering a European Union funded tender, or for example, a tender financed by United Nations, these two multilateral organizations have developed a specific procedure which is very clear and very precise, but another time, you can consult it very easily in United Nations website and in European Union website. The terms and conditions of tenders in multilateral bids are completely and perfectly described. The objective is always that only with the specific tender condition that you are interested in, you can find all the information that you need to be able to prepare your offer. There is only a little exception with the FIDIC. The FIDIC is the International Federation of Consulting Engineers, which is based in Switzerland. The federation has developed different general conditions by type of tenders, which are used a lot by different contracting authorities. But it's very easy because in this case, you always see a specific reference to FIDIC condition, and by this way, you have absolutely no problem in referring to this specific condition. Just one moment, because I am realizing that we are hearing somebody who didn't turn off his microphone. Okay, it seems to be that it's arranged. All the tenders have exactly the same kind of exclusion criteria. What does it mean? It means that necessarily, and it doesn't matter which kind of tender that you are interested in or that you are wanting to tender, you absolutely must fit with the criteria, and you cannot have any of these exclusion criteria which are common to all the tenders in Moldova, in Serbia, in United Europe, and in the main multilateral agency. In reality, these exclusion criteria are classified in 4 different categories. The first one can be summarized in that it's absolutely forbidden to participate in any criminal activity. It's something absolutely obvious, but it's one of the criteria that you will have to establish when you are participating in reality in any kind of tender. It's the category of exclusion criteria. The second one is that it's very important that you have absolutely no strong problems of money, of solvency. Why? Because the contracting authority, as you can imagine, doesn't want the project to be stopped because
I'm sorry, Karin, perhaps, I'm sorry, we still hear 2 people, I think,
yes,
and I cannot cut.
Yes, we have a problem of somebody.
I think it's someone from Spain, Carlos, perhaps.
Okay, I think that's.
Yeah, it should work now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Christina. Okay, let's continuing. I was telling you the importance to check if your company is not involved in any of the 4 categories of exclusion criteria, which are absolutely the same in any of the tender that you want to participate. It can be a national tender from a foreign country, or it can be a multilateral tender. Normally, the way of expressing this exclusion criteria common to all tenders, it's not exactly the same kind of expression, but it's always these 4 characteristics, these 4 main categories of exclusion criteria that I am explaining to you. First, evidently it's absolutely forbidden to participate or to have participated in criminal organization, of money laundering, of corruption, fraud organization, and so on. Second, the contracting authority want to avoid that companies involved in big solvency problem, big money problem, can participate in this tender procedure. Why? Because really the contracting authority doesn't want the project to be stopped because the winner of the tender becomes suddenly bankrupt during the implementation of the project, something totally normal. The third category of exclusion criteria is to try to avoid all the companies and all the people involved in grave professional misconduct. But it's something really very strong because it must be confirmed by a definitive judgment saying that this company or this person really participate or provoked or carried out a very grave professional misconduct. Third category of common exclusion criteria. The fourth one is and involve all the company which don't pay social security or taxes of its country of incorporation. As you can see, something very obvious. This is the first category of criteria that you will find in our tender, as I told you, national or multilateral tender. The second type of criteria that you must check if you want to participate in an international tender are called eligibility criteria. In this case, these three kinds of eligibility criteria are different according to the specific tender that you are interested in. But take care, you will find these three categories of criteria in all the tender that you are wanting to participate. The first category of criteria are legal and regulatory capacity of the company. The second one, economic and financial capacity. I have already explained to you a little bit what it is about, but I will specify a little bit more now. And the third one are the criteria related to the technical and professional capacity. Let's begin by the legal and regulatory capacity. All the contracting authority wants that SME participating in tender are companies which are legally incorporated according to the law of the country of incorporation. What does it mean? It means that if you are a Spanish SME, it's very important that you incorporated your company according to the SME law. If you are a Belgian one, same, according to the Belgian law. And that you have to all the different authorization or certification in force that you are required another time under your national incorporation law to be able to carry out legally all the activities that you are wanting to do under the umbrella of your company. An example, a person with an engineering degree belonging to an official association of engineering, for example, in order to be able to offer specific engineering services, the same for architectural services and so on, according to, remember, the law of your country of incorporation. Economic and financial capacity. As I told you before, you need to have a minimum annual turnover of the company. And if your SME does not reach this required minimum turnover, the way to get a tender is through the formation of a consortium with other companies. We will come back to this very important point a little bit later. It's very important as we will see a little bit later. Why? Because the general rule is that in all the tender conditions, you will find that the different financial result of the member of the consortium that you are forming to be able to tender in the specific bid that you are interested in are added. What does it mean? If my company has a turnover of 1 million and the company of my partner is a turnover of 2 million, we can tender to a bid which requires a minimum turnover of 3 million euro to be able to tender correctly in this specific tender. I just saw a little question from Christina. Should the SME authorization and certificate be translated in local language? What a good question, Christina. It depends. It depends on what? It depends if we are tendering in a national procedure. In this case, effectively, we will be able to translate all these certificates in the local language. But if we are tendering in some multilateral tender, for example, financed by the European Union, we can present all of our certificates in one of the official languages of the European Union. To try to answer completely to the Christina's question, you must know too that there are two types of translation. The normal translation, what does it mean? It means, for example, I can translate some certificate from Spanish to English or from Spanish to French, and okay, I do it myself. But if we are translating official certification, incorporation document, really all the documents which are issued by an official body of your incorporating country, it's nearly ever mandatory to use a sworn translator to translate this kind of document. These are the general rules. If you are in a national proceeding, obligation to translate in the official language of the national country where you are tendering, and if you are in some procedure financed by the European Union, you can submit the different certificate in one of the official languages of the European Union. But never forget that you must always read the specific specification of the tender that you are interested in, because remember that the law governing, ruling your tender are the tender specification, and that sometimes it can contain some specific rules which are totally different of the general rule that they are explaining to you in the session of today. The third category of eligibility criteria that you have to fit if you want to win the tender that you are interested in are technical and professional capacity. Technical capacity refers to the company experience in the activity requested in the tender, while professional capacity refers to the experience of the human resources team that will be dedicated to the implementation of the project that we want to win. And really, it's very important to be able to have the experts that we need. It's absolutely vital in consultancy and technical assistance tender. Why? Because what we are selling is our expertise in solving some specific problems, and because we have, if we have the highest rated expert, evidently we will win. You know, all the tender evaluators have a specific grid of evaluation, and they are evaluating the number of years of experience, the type of project carried out by the different experts proposed in the different tender. Just a little observation that I wanted to add about the technical capacity of your company. It's very important that you have the minimum number of projects required in the tender specification. And the typical thing is that, for example, you have a minimum of 3 projects, each one of a minimum of 100,000 euros carried out during the last 5 years in the integral management of dangerous healthcare waste, to propose to you a very specific example. And what you will find in the professional capacity of the expert that you are proposing for the implementation of the project, you will find some specification as, for example, the team manager must have at least, or must prove, don't forget, you must prove, you must give the evidence of the experience of all your human resource used in this type of project. And for example, you must prove that your team manager have 5 years of experience in this type of activity and is used to manage a minimum team of, for example, 4 people. You see a little bit how it's organized. But how can we prove that we have the experience, the technical experience or the technical capacity? To prove all these eligibility criteria, we will use the performance letter, the reference letter. The name has no importance. The importance is that you are following some kind of model as the one that you can read in this slide. It means that a letter from your client to explain what you did, and you must have a little paragraph explaining the nature of the services or of the goods that you furnish in the frame of this former mission, with the value of the operation, the period of implementation, which is very important too, because remember, you have to prove your experience according to the specific tender condition during the last 3 years or the last 5 years. It depends a little bit on every case. But what is absolutely mandatory, is fundamental in your reference letter, are the points that I underline in yellow. Look, we are speaking about the value of our expert, helpful and constructive attitude, they gave practical advice, and the other nearly obsession of any kind of authority, of contracting authority in Spain, in Moldova, in Serbia, and in China is that you are scrupulously respecting the budget and the time in which the contracting authority wants you to implement your project. For this reason, I underline it in yellow to remember you that it's very important to specify this kind of aspect in your reference letter, and evidently too the amount of the project that you did, and I remember the period of the implementation. Okay, but what can we do if we have never tendered, if we have no idea about reference letter? I propose you what I have called the Al Capone's accountant methodology. What is this? Okay, you remember that Al Capone was arrested because his accountant has a little book where he was putting all the name of the client, the amount of the operation, and so on. What I propose to you to elaborate very easily all your reference letter. Please call your accountant and ask him to give you all the bill of, for example, more than 50,000 or 100,000 euro that you had during the last 3 years. And by this way, you will remember your client, you will see the amount of what you did and the nature of the operation that you carry out in your past experience. And from this point, you will write the reference letter according to the model that I propose you. It's much better that you are writing the reference letter and you give it to your past or your former clients only to be signed. By this way, you will constitute all the experience of your company, and you can do the same with your main human resource officer, the one that you want to present as expert in your tender procedure. Another very important aspect of the tender, and which that you will find in every kind of tender, but which are different according to your tender specification, are your evaluation or award criteria. The award criteria will define the different aspects that will be measured, that will be evaluated to find who will be the winner of the tender that you are interested in. And normally you will find some different criteria which will be explained, and you will find too, after this explanation, a little table which is called bid evaluation criteria, and you will find to have a team manager with more than 5 years of experience, 10 points. To propose a very good methodology, well-developed, realistic, and so on, 20 points. What does this mean? It means that reading your bid evaluation criteria table, you will know exactly which are the points that you must develop and that you must check before developing it, that you must check to determine if you can go alone to a specific tender or if it is better to go in a consortium. You will find 2 types of evaluation criteria. If the tender, just one moment, a question from Christina. If the tender is based on price criteria, should we forget the references? No. Why? Because you remember that the references, the technical experience of the company and of the team, are eligibility criteria. What does it mean? It means that if you are putting a price, a very low price, but you are not working in the field of activities of the tender, your offer will be straight away eliminated because precisely you have not fit with the 3 categories of eligibility criteria. The price is only a factor that you are evaluating when you arrive a little bit to the 3rd category of evaluation of your offer. The first one, when a contracting authority is evaluating all the offers that he received, the first thing that he will verify is the exclusion criteria. If there is a tendering company, for example, who is nearly bankrupt, the company will be eliminated. Why? Because these exclusion criteria are not respected. The second filter, the second category of information that the contracting authority will verify is the eligibility criteria. And in this eligibility criteria, remember that you have a big category, which is the technical capacity and the professional capacity. If you are working in another activity, if you are not able to give all of this letter of experience that we were speaking about, there will be no evaluation of the price that you put for your tender. How to proceed in case of a tender in the field of construction when the contracting authority requires the mandatory presentation of attestation certificate of local specialist. Okay, there we have a problem, Koskodan, or Julian, sorry. Why? Because if you are, I don't know, a Belgian, a German, or a Spanish company, it will be very difficult that you are in a position to be able to show this specific certificate, and is the reason why what I propose in this case is to try to find a local partner who can be complementary to the profile of your company, and to go together in a joint tender, making a contract agreement with this local partner to be able to meet all these different specific attestation certificate to have absolutely no problem. As I was telling you, in reality, there are 2 types of evaluation criteria. There are automatic evaluable criteria, as Christina remembers us. The main automatic criteria, or criterion, sorry, is evidently the price. And the price is always part of the evaluation criteria of your offer. And it can be a lot of automatic evaluable criteria apart from the price. You have some example here: obligation for staff to have a specific qualification, ISO certification, or the specific example then our colleague tell us through the chat are wonderful example of automatically evaluable criteria. But apart from these criteria, there are 2 what we call non-automatically evaluable criteria. These are criteria whose quantification depend on a value judgment. What does it mean? It means that to be able to meet this criteria, we will be obliged to write a technical offer. What is this technical offer? Normally, it's only to say, if we were the winner, how will we do to implement the contract? I am just finished this first part of the speech. If you have any kind of question, please feel free to ask through the chat. I will wait just one moment to allow you to write if you have something that you want to ask, or if something was not very clear. I am at your disposal. No question? Okay, in this case, I will continue and I will speak to you a little bit more about the essential documentation that it's important to prepare, and my recommendation is to prepare this kind of documentation even before looking for opportunities. Why? Because if you have not this basis, you will get a little bit frustrated. Why? Because in reality, as you know, the tender period to prepare your offer is very short. And if you have prepared all this specific documentation, it will be much easier for you to present your offer, because you will have already some kind of information that you have always to prepare for the different tender, and there is no importance if there is a national or a multinational tender. What is this legal documentation? Here you are. Incorporation Act, to prove that your company or your entity has a legal existence. The power of attorney, very important. Why? Because the contracting authority must be sure that the person in your team signing the offer is the person who can legally who can legally oblige the company to implement the project in case that you are winning the tender. As I told you in the exclusion criteria, it's absolutely mandatory to have no debt with the social security. You must present social security certificate, tax certificate. If you are an anonymous society, you must present audited accounts. You must present the curricula of the people of your team who will be involved in the implementation of the contract. Quality certificates, if you are certificated ISO, for example, is very good to systematically add this certificate in your offer, even if they are not required in the tender specification, because it gives credibility to your company. It's something very interesting. And reference letter or customer satisfaction certificates, as you want to tell it. It's very important to prepare the experience of your company according to the current models. If the contracting authorities have predetermined the current model, some file that you have to fill in to be able to present your offer, or to present yourself a document with the explanation of all the former project that you carry out, but it's important to structure it by line of activity, because, for example, in European funded tender, the only thing that, or the only type of experience which must appear are only the activity linked with the contract that you are tendering. At the contrary, for example, in the World Bank procedure, you can perfectly put the general experience of the company, and for this reason, it will be easier if you are structuring all this experience by a line of activity. Evolution of the workforce, as I told you, it's very important to specify the number of people working in your SME, and to the negotiation of guarantee lines. You must know that in some tender, it's not always the case, but you will see it when you are reading the specification of the tender that you want to present. You can find three kinds of guarantee, three kinds of what we call the bonds. They are normally bank guarantee of three categories. Bid bond. The bid bond is the guarantee, the bank guarantee that you have to present to ensure the contracting authority that you will not change your mind and say, okay, I don't want anymore to present this offer. It's a way to oblige you to maintain your offer during what is called the validity period of your tender. Don't worry, this validity period, it's always perfectly determined in your tender condition. It seems to be between 3 and 6 months. And if you are presenting a tender and you have a bid bond that you have to present, and suddenly you are winning other contract and you are not interested anymore in this specific tender, and if you are declared the winner of the tender and you are not going to sign the contract, the contracting authority has the right to execute this bid bond. What does it mean? To keep the money of this bid bond. Okay, this is the first category of guarantee that you can find in this kind of tender. The second one is the performance bond. Okay, you are the winner. You are signing the contract with the contracting authority. Life is beautiful, but don't forget that in a lot of case, and specifically in the construction contract, you have to present, when you are going to sign the contract with the contracting authority, what is called a performance bond, which is another bank guarantee saying that you will execute perfectly. It means according to the tender condition and the tender contract that you are about to sign, and you are implementing correctly all this contract. And in a lot of cases, there is too the possibility to ask for an advance payment. You know, in contract finance by European Union, you can find an advance payment until the 60% of the whole amount of the tender. And clear, you must evitate that some company take the money of the advance payment and disappear in an exotic beach. To avoid this, the contracting authority which agrees to give you an advance payment will ask you to present an advance payment bond as a condition of the presentation of the payment of this. Solving typical problems. What's happening if we have negative financial result? We are not bankrupt, but with the COVID, with a lot of circumstances, we have some losses in the previous year. We can participate in a tender in these circumstances, but we can never be the leader of the consortium. We can participate as a member of the consortium. Why? Because remember what I explained to you at the beginning of this session. All the financial aspect of the different members of the consortium will add together. And for this reason, there will be no problem. It is possible to compete from Europe to other countries. Yes, but remember, you have to prove your experience in the same kind of activity, and in some case, it will be very important to have a local partner, and you must take care about the difference, the legal difference of a branch in comparison with a subsidiary. Why? Because remember that when you are creating a subsidiary in the local market where you want to tender, really you are creating an independent legal identity. It's like to have a new baby. This new baby has no experience. What does it mean? It means that if you are creating a subsidiary, you will not be entitled in presenting the former experience of the parent company. For the reason that I was explaining to you, because it's a really totally new company. But if you are creating a subsidiary in the country in which you are interested in tendering on a repetitive way, don't worry, because creating a subsidiary, it's on a legal point of view, it will be the same company as the parent one that you can have, for example, in Germany or in Belgium, and you will be able to use the experience of this parent company to present the bid. What's happening if we have not a lot of experience in internationalization? There are some little tips and some little recommendations that I can do to try to help you. First is to try to seek the source of funding for the project that you carry out in the past. For example, as you maybe know, I am living for 30 years in south of Spain in a region called Andalusia, and Andalusia is a region in which there are a lot of European funds helping of the development of this part of Spain. And for this reason, it's not the same to have carried out a contract in a little village of Andalusia than having carried out exactly the same contract, but financed by some European fund. For this reason, as I tell you, it's very interesting to identify the source of funding of the project that you did before, because by this way, you can give an international dimension to your project without having gone outside your incorporation country. The human resource that you are proposing as experts are to another way of giving an international dimension to your proposal. And another possibility is beginning by being subcontractor of international company from your country that they are already in the country that you are interested in. And the best way to do it is to form consortia with other company. Here I put you different criteria for the prioritization of tenders of your interest. I only want to comment you the little joke that I put in the first point. I am not a dustman. I am a wastologist. What I wanted to say there, the other criteria are perfectly classic. When sorry. My former boss was a specialist of working in dangerous healthcare waste management sector. And he always said, what I translated in English, but okay, I will tell it in Spanish, no soy un basurero, soy un basurólogo. What he wanted to say by this little joke, he wanted to say that it's much better to be specialized in a niche market, even if it's a niche market with less opportunities, with less money, because as you probably know, the healthcare waste is measured in gram. Meanwhile, the domestic waste are measured in ton. You can imagine the difference of money too, seeing this difference of size. What I wanted to tell you is that it's very important to determine which are the niche that your company is working in. It will be much easier to win a contract in a specific niche than saying, like some clients are telling me, no, I am an engineering company and I can do anything. There it will be much more complicated to find real opportunities and to win the tender. I don't know if you have some question. Please feel free to write it inside the chat. And as time is flying, I will continuing and I will insisting on this part, which is very important. One of the best key to win tender, to win international tender, is to form a consortium with other companies. Why? Because by this way, you will be able to add other technical references. You remember that the technical references of the company and the professional experience of the staff is one of the category of the eligibility criteria that if you are not matching them exactly, you will not be able to win the tender. And it is occurring exactly the same thing that with the economic size of the company. It's a normal rule, the general rule. All the technical references between the different companies inside the consortium will be added to evaluate the technical capacity of the company. You will have a more expert in the different specific field that the contracting authority is wanting you to provide. And you will know much more about the target country. If you want to work in Moldova, if you want to work in Serbia, it's much better to participate inside a consortium with a Moldovan company or a Serbian one. Why? Because they know the country, and not only they know the country, but it will be much cheaper for you, because you can split the different activities, and you can give to the Moldovan company or the Serbian one the different activities which are are more related with the specific indication of the country, you will know much more about the prices that you need to take into account to be able to make the best economic offer of your offer. It will be really a lot of advantages to form a consortium to tender the tender that you are interested in. Okay, but how to define an ideal local partner? I propose this little methodology is you must analyze the tender condition and you must try to summarize it in 7, 10, but not more than 10 specific topics which are very important for the development, for the implementation of the contract and for the evaluation of your offer. And you put the name of your company and you are making a self-analysis saying, okay, I don't know if I have enough experience in organization in this type of things. If I have experience, I put you an example of an environmental tender. If I have experience in emission inventories and so on. And you put a little cross where you have experience and where you have not experience, you know that these are the specific factors that you absolutely need to find in your local partner or partners with SA if you need 2 more companies to form the winning consortium to be able to tender. What is exactly a consortium contract? Here I put you the legal definition, but in reality, the consortium contract will allow you to reach and to tender much broader opportunities than if you were going alone, and you can do it on 2 strategic way of acting. One, it's to prepare a consortium contract to present one specific tender and goodbye. Or if you find a good local partner, you can establish a consortium contract for more than one contract, determining the general how many companies can form a consortium. Ask Anna. Anna, there is no maximum in the. You can decide to form a contract with 8 or 10 companies, but you must verify first, is it profitable to have so many companies? And the answer will be, okay, it is profitable if we are 2, if we are 4, if it is a big tender. But normally, according to my experience, more than 4 different people in a tender consortium is difficult to manage. And for this reason, I recommend to find 1 or 2, or if it's something very huge or very technical and difficult, but not more than 4 people. And the legal characteristic of this kind of contract, and the most important characteristic, I could have it underlined in yellow, is that all the companies inside a contract, inside a consortium contract, are jointly and severally liable for each and every one of the obligations arising from the proposal, from the tender proposal, and from the contract. What does it mean? It means that if one of the partners has provoked some some problem or has not correctly implemented the contract, the contracting authority will not ask who did the damage and automatically will come against normally the leader of the contract. And it is the reason for what I recommend to make two different consortium contracts. One contract very light, in which you will only put the identification of each of the participating company, the percentage of each company, the representative of each company, and very important, the representative of the consortium in its rule. But I propose to elaborate an internal consortium agreement which will not be included in the tender offer, but which will realize a very clear division of the responsibilities of each partner. And by this way, if there is a problem, if there is a mis-execution of one of the partners, the contracting authority will not check. It will say normally the biggest company or the leader company will have to pay for all the damage. But this company, which has absolutely done anything wrong, can go against his partner who didn't execute it correctly, the contract, because of this internal agreement. And I put you an example that I take from a joint venture agreement that we prepared for a client. But what is absolutely mandatory in this internal consortium agreement is to put that the party shall be liable only and exclusively for the works and supplies delivered, and not for the parts and supplies delivered and or performed by the other parties to the agreement. Where can we find information about consortium company? There is a wonderful source of information, which is the part of the website which is contracts one section of national and multilateral organization website. I put you some example that I found particularly interesting, as for example this example of Moldova, where you can find even the email of the different company and the contract that they have won, the nature of this contract, the amount, and really it's very interesting. And look, even the success rate of this company. It's very interesting, and I recommend you this website. Another possibility for Moldova and for Serbia. So we are not obliged, sorry, I have seen a question from Christina, but I had no time to read it. So we are not obliged to add the consortium agreement to the, okay, yes, Christina, you are obliged to put a promise of consortium agreement with your offer, which is a very simple document in which you will put only the identification of different companies which are forming the consortium, the percentage of everyone, of the participation of everyone, the contact person of each company, and the legal representative of the consortium once he will be formalized if we are winning the contract. But all the information that I was giving to you of which company will execute this part of the contract, and all the determination of the different tasks executed by everyone, and the limitation of the liability of every member of the consortium to what he has effectively carried out. This is for the internal consortium that you are not that you have not to present inside your tender offer. As I told you, another very interesting source of potential partner is the TED website. You are only going, as I told you, to the awarded contract. And look, I show you an example here that you can see. It was another way, a contract in Moldova, which was won, as you can see, by a Czech company, and you will find the winner of all this contract in the TED website. You have only to mark place of performance and contract award notice, and all the winner will appear, and you can make too a little, you can refine your research using some topics to be sure that appear only companies working in your tender activities. You can find it too in the European Bank, in the BERT, for example. You can use social media, or you can begin to build your own network, which will be very interesting. Specification on Serbia and Moldova, really, they are little by little, they are adopting every time more the tender regulation that we have in the 27 European countries, which is very good for the facilitation of our tender procedure. And they are now a platform where you can identify public tender open for bidding. There are too a lot of translation in English. Here I put you the different tender site where you can find the opportunities. Look, for example, in Moldova, it's a tender website which was financed by the BERT, which is by the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development. Look, Moldova has already adopted to a wonderful tool, which is open tender, and there you can find the number of procedures, the top procuring entities, the most often the CPUV classification, which are more tender. You can find to the award companies. It's wonderful. The website of the Public Procurement Office for Serbia is this one, with a lot of documents, and every time more translated in English to try to help European SME who want to tender too. Here you have to the Development Agency of Serbia, where you can find more opportunities. And as you can see, Serbia is really trying to fit the more of possible with all the obligation of European tender and all the requirement of this tender. There are a lot of opportunities. Look in the TED. I made a little investigation to show you 225 possibilities open at this moment. I saw a question from Christina in the platform. Can we find tender managed by local authorities? Yes, effectively, of just the one managed by the international ones. No, it's open to local authorities. You will find it without any kind of problem. to find specifically the tender funded by European agencies or European institutions. You can go to a specific place inside the TED platform, which is called e-tendering. There, Christina, you will only find the tender in Serbia and in Moldova, which are funded by European fund. Some practical advice to finish, really, the consortium is the key. It's very important and it will help you a lot. There are specific opportunities. It's not difficult, but it's very, very ruled. And it's very ruled to try to help you to win the tender and to keep the equality between the different candidates. You must, when you are presenting to your potential local partner, you must make a good marketing of your proposal. It's very important. And you must define before contacting your potential partner, you must define very well what you can bring to the project. And you must act quickly. Why? Because, as you know, there is not a long time between the moment that a tender is launched and the moment that you have to answer. For this reason, it's very important to react quickly. Thank you very much to follow this session, and I am at your disposal to answer any question. I don't know if you want to ask something, not necessarily to me. If you want to ask some question too about the project, Christina is here to answer your question.
So no questions in the chat, but if someone wishes to take, to put on the microphone and to take the floor, you are more than welcome. If not, I put you in the chat the P2Greenest project link. Thank you very much, Karin, for this interesting presentation and these useful insights for the beginners, because we really need to take into consideration these advices if we are beginners in international tendering, and I'm sure this will help some of the audience here today. Before closing this webinar, do not hesitate to write us. I would like to thank you again to the project partners, but also to COSME program, which is co-financing our project and this webinar today. Thank you again, Karin, for being with us here today, and I hope you find the webinar interesting, and I'm really looking forward to see all of you to our next webinars. Let's keep in touch, and let's partner together, because I'm concluding on this term today. We understood that for bidding internationally, we need local partners, we need SMEs, local stakeholders, public authorities. So we are really open to enhance this collaboration with the targeted markets. And I know that some partners from Moldova, Serbia, and Ukraine were here with us today. We are really open to exchange and to increase the competitiveness of European companies in the targeted markets. Thank you very much to all of you, and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Christina. Thank you, everybody.